Last question before we open it up to the audience, and we can start with you, Eduardo. And this is more of a personal opinion along the panelists here and what we can do. We have a race going on right now. America and China, DeepSeek, OpenAI. Who's winning the race? Why? And what can we do to position ourselves here in the Valley to be ready for that?
I don't want to answer that question. We're behind. We are behind. I took the opportunity. I had the opportunity to be in China back in 2018, and in China for different reasons. And one of the reasons is the use of your personal information, because for the government, right? It's different. I don't want to say it's good or it's bad, but for that reason, they can have more experimental technologies. So back in 2018, they had a lot of what we are having right now in this as a technologies, talking about self-driving cars and a lot of the things we'd already lost putting together by the government. So in Beijing, they have already in the center, in the downtown of Beijing, they have a lot of cameras so they can see whatever is around, who's there, the measurements of as a citizen, you're rated, and who's there and who's not there at midnight. So they're really ahead of us. So we need to step, and I think as a region, we have everything to make this fight back. We are behind, in my point of view, but we have everything, but we need to get together. And I think this conversation, this panel is more than I thought it was to become. And but we need to understand consciously where we're at and where we want to go. But we have everything, but we're behind already.
Anybody else brave enough to give their opinion before we move on?
Well, I'm sorry. Yeah, if we want to talk from a manufacturing standpoint, China's like 20 years ahead of us. The technology, the capacity of the things that they can do. Even though Mexico is more, if Mexico had the same population as China, we would be a lot more productive, because per capita, Mexico is more productive than China, but their sheer volume alone is what destroys us. You know, they're 1.3 billion people. It's very hard to compete with that. But I think that in order to catch up, like you mentioned before, AI, automation, additive manufacturing is going to be key for us to be competitive again.
Can I go back? Hello. Adding of what Rolando is saying, he's saying about really in the manufacturing. I was saying that we need to combine some technologies, in this case AI and manufacturing, and China is really ahead of us. But in the case of software and AI, India is really ahead of us too, because for the capacity. So they have, for example, in our case, we need, for example, a software development person or whatever specific knowledge people we need to have to hire. We delay like a week, maybe 2 weeks, and find 1, 2, or 3. If you go and ask to India, you can have like a 3,000 in 30 seconds. So the capacity is different. So we need to go like understanding what is happening in China and understanding what is happening in India, and putting together the effort.
Well, China and India are ahead of us in certain areas, but they did not get there, by accident. It was strategic planning and so on that they did. So the most important part, and thing that allowed China and India, to get where they are is human capital, in specific areas, is STEM field, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. We used to lead in that area. We don't lead anymore, and we are trying to get back to that area, because science, technology, engineering, and mathematics are what create wealth. All the others industries, although important, they are not self-sustaining without a very strong industrial base. So I understand, and maybe I'm going to offend some people, but I'll go ahead and say it. One of the largest employer or industry in the valley is the school districts. But how do we fund school, the education? Is through property taxes. So somebody has to pay those taxes to be able to have quality education. That somebody has to be manufacturing. It has to be industries because they are the ones generating value. So I don't want to have, a lecture on economics, but I'll give you a very short, maybe explanation. So when you manufacture something, most of the stuff that you manufacture is not going to be sold and consumed locally. It will be exported. So you export the value that you have produced and bring back cash that allows activity in that economy. It allows for thriving entertainment industry, real estate, schools, and so on. If you bring other industries, for example, and I don't want to pick on retail because most from inside out, so it doesn't stay to circulate in the economy. Only manufacturing does that because it brings money in and takes products out. Other areas, they take money out, and that's what you're trying to avoid. So you're bleeding the region in that sense. We cannot just say, no, we're not going to do retail because we still need retail. But we should not really focus on retail. We need to focus on manufacturing and industries, whether it's advanced or the traditional manufacturing, because that's what creates wealth in a community. So you look at Chicago, you look at LA, there's very strong manufacturing bases there. And that's the reason why they are considered successful, big, thriving, communities, is because there is wealth being generated there.
So, Nathan, can I use that as a plug for what we're doing at GBIC?
Please.
So one of the things that we're doing at GBIC is, and we will have a groundbreaking in a couple of weeks, is we are developing an industrial park. It's 730 acres. Of that, we've got phase one coming in, which is 86 acres. Out of those 86 acres at this moment, we probably have LOIs on 3/4 of that land already, as well as other individuals that are looking at taking down the rest of those. And we are, internally, we're already talking of what's next, which is phase two. And I hope I don't get fired for this, but it is something important that I think this, what we're talking about is important because we know what we need to bring: industry, manufacturing, industrial. We had a smaller industrial park, which is the North Brownsville Industrial Park. We've got over 300,000 square feet of manufacturing space going up in that park. It's already been sold out. So it is something that we do take very seriously. I know we've missed some steps here and there, and I take that. But we also know that we have to look beyond what's in front of us. We have to look what's beyond us. And that is what I think myself and all our teammates and our executive director is, what is ahead and how do we get there? And what do we create in order to get that? And it goes back to the infrastructure. We need water. We need I'm not saying we need it. I'm just saying these are the things that you need in order to grow your base. Infrastructure, utilities, water, capacity, workforce. So we know what we need to do, and we're working to get there.